Well, good morning everyone. As of midnight tonight, a whole range of laws come into effect in Western Australia, and one of them that I particularly think is very important is the new penalties and the new offences with respect to graffiti. Notably, we are doubling the maximum penalties and the fine that's applicable to anyone who damages property with the sort of graffiti that we see around us here in the back streets of Mount Lawley. And also importantly, we've created an entirely new offence, which is to criminalise the sale of graffiti implements to persons under 18, to minors, and that will carry a $6,000 fine for a first offence of selling a graffiti implement to a minor, and a $12,000 fine for second and subsequent offences. So it's a significant change. It obviously places a responsibility and a burden upon business, but we believe after the consultation that we've gone through when the Act was passed through Parliament, that's one that business will be able to meet, and I would imagine that they would do so willingly and in full understanding that the community is sick to death of graffiti, and that the sort of graffiti we see is very much the product in many instances of juveniles.
Do you expect the judiciary to impose that maximum penalty?
I certainly do. When the Parliament sends a message to the courts, the best way that they can do that is by doubling a penalty. That is the Parliament, informed by the people of Western Australia, saying that we think that this offence is twice as serious as it was prior to that doubling of penalty. I mean, people are just absolutely fed up with graffiti on businesses, on private residences, on cars, on shop fronts. This is just a clear message to the judiciary that the people of Western Australia have just had enough, that they view graffiti as an extremely serious offence, and that if you perpetrate it and you have many mitigating factors against you, you've been a recidivist offender on graffiti, then you can expect something near the maximum.
What items constitute graffiti implements? Can you rattle them off?
There's a definition. It is non-water soluble markers and paints, including those that come in a pen with a nib over 6 millimetres. So it's been a definition that we've borrowed from, I believe it was Ontario, Canada, and it's one that works very well there. Things that are out, highlighters because they're water soluble, but anything that creates a permanent mark, like the ones that you see around you that have a nib greater than 6 millimetres, that definition we believe is going to capture 95% of all of the implements that we see that are used to create graffiti.
So can you just say that in layman's terms?
Spray cans and marker pens that have a thick nib over 6 millimetres.
Winston Churchill once said, when you introduce 10,000 regulations, you lose all respect for the law. A lot of laws being introduced by the government come January 1. What's the motivation here? Is it law and order? Is it just things need to be shaken up, or are you just doing it for the sake of doing it?
Winston Churchill also said that a lie is halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on. This would be good for the media. But look, the point about all of this is that this is not a massive expanse of regulation. It's a very simple thing. If you're a shop owner, don't sell graffiti implements to people under 18. And what you've got to understand is that there were shops, including one located right here in Mount Lawley, that were routinely and regularly selling spray cans, selling thick marker pens to kids under 18. And I can assure you that the use, overwhelmingly, of those sorts of things is around us all now. So what we're saying is that this isn't an overcomplicated regulation, this isn't part of the explosion of government. Just don't sell graffiti implements to minors.
So to target the under 18s, could you just say what role the under 18s have in the graffiti problem?
Well, there's a statistic which Amy can give you later on, but of the graffiti offences that go through the court, there's a massive number that apply to juveniles. There's no question that if you look at a percentage of population, juveniles are more likely to engage in the criminal act of graffiti than adults as a percentage of population. Now, they're doing it with implements that prior to today's date have been readily available for them to buy. Now, that's just not an acceptable situation. In fact, it's quite amazing to me as Attorney General that it's taken this jurisdiction this long. The previous government had 8 years to try and stop the sale of graffiti implements to minors, but nothing was done. It's just a common sense piece of government and a piece of lawmaking.
Well, the main problem is business owners now along Beaufort Street. We had a new art gallery open a few months ago. Within days it was graffitied. People are jumping up on the awnings, putting graffiti high on the buildings. They even went and graffitied RTR FM's window while the people were sitting inside the office working during the day. So you can see it's a huge problem, window scoring. People are just sick and tired of this low-level antisocial behaviour. Smashing of eggshell windows as well as another thing. Bus stops, eggshell bus stops, smashing of the bus stops. defacing business premises, windows of businesses, going into the reserves, graffitiing the cricket pitches, graffitiing the outbuildings, and as the Attorney General said, the general public's just had a guts full of this, and we need to bring it to a halt.
Do you see any artistic merit in what's done?
Well, I don't see artistic merit in going around tagging places, but I am working with the City of Bayswater to try and do some type of urban art under the Mount Lawley subway. And there's perhaps a place for urban art on a lot of the electricity and other boxes around the suburbs where people can go, say it's a soccer field, and put soccer balls and soccer players on it and that type of thing. But all we're doing actually is trying to disguise a bigger problem, which is the people that just go around defacing private property, which is unacceptable.
These young people who commit these antisocial acts, do you think they think about the consequences before they commit graffiti?
Well, I don't think they do think about the consequences, and I've called for the abolition of juvenile cautions for crimes such as graffiti, because as the Attorney General said, when a crime blows out, when you have this is damage to property, when it blows out, then the penalties have to be increased to deter that crime. But as you say, that it's not only a deterrence, we have to have a education policy through the schools, and I think on the radio and the TV, just pointing out what a huge amount of money is spent on this. The local councils are now spending 25 million in WA, and that doesn't include the Transport Authority with the window etchings, etc.
If these young people don't think of the consequences at all, why would there be any deterrence in an increase in penalties?
Well, I think if the penalties are stronger and they actually are made to either clean up the graffiti or, in the worst cases, incarcerated, like the magistrate in New South Wales that gave a graffiti artist 1 year in jail, I think maybe the message will get through. But to just throw your hands up and do nothing is a recipe for disaster.